When he went into the hospital, he was slightly dehydrated. He was not producing urine. And after his surgery, he was prescribed a very low IV drip, something more appropriate for a small child than a 15-year-old boy, certainly not for a 15-year-old boy who was already low on fluids. And we could not get those orders changed. Finally, a pharmacist found it, and there happened to be a very receptive nurse who was a knowledgeable nurse. Most of them were very young, and they were not going to challenge anyone. But this was an older nurse who really knew what she was doing, and she and the pharmacist got the orders changed. For his pain, he had an epidural with hydromorphone and bupivacaine, and he had, for an adjunct medication, IV Toradol every 6 hours. The narcotics were up to, very high levels, sort of dangerous levels for somebody who was opiate naive. And then the ketorolac, which they kept giving, and it seemed to really have no effect on the pain. At 6:30 Sunday morning, which was half an hour after a Toradol injection, he was suddenly just stricken with this excruciating pain in his upper abdomen, quite a different place from his chest pain. It's just constipation from the narcotics. That was the diagnosis that stuck through thick and thin, through every sort of evidence to the contrary. That was the diagnosis he had. Over the course of 30 hours, he continued to deteriorate. He became septic. He exhibited signs of shock and dehydration. He was fairly obviously in bad shape, and no one did anything. Monday morning came, and when they came around to take Lewis's vital signs, he had no blood pressure. And there was just the assumption that couldn't be right, because how could a healthy child in for elective blood surgery have no blood pressure? They took his blood pressure 12 times with 7 different cuffs and machines. So they tried to take blood, and they couldn't. There wasn't much blood there. They were trying to squeeze and wring his arm to get some blood out. While they were doing this, he looked over at me and he started saying something I couldn't understand because his words were slurred. And he said, "It's going black." And I said, "What?" And he repeated it, with great difficulty. I just stared at him. I didn't know what to do about somebody saying something like that. And then suddenly he just arced into cardiac arrest. And his body went at all angles, and his eyes were staring.